Workers of Reddit, what is the most disturbing thing your company does and gets away with? Don't forget to like and subscribe. I worked for a gas station. Access to the 75,000 gallon underground tank is protected by a single lock less strong than the ones on high school lockers. The 4-digit password on it was written on the lock in Sharpie. Not that you needed it, it was the store address. When I used to work in retail, we had these things called great values. Every sale we'd put yellow tags on top of items that weren't actually on sale, which we were allowed to do because it didn't actually say sale or special, just great value. It was always funny to see people walk by them and say something like that's a really good deal and buy the item, even though it was regular price. I've seen similar stuff at other department stores, so I assume it must be fairly common. State government. The governor can appoint his friends and buddies to prominent positions in state government, even though the people don't even meet the bare minimum requirements for the jobs. I used to work in a restaurant where on busy nights, or on nights when staff were sick, they would ring up people to come in for a 3-hour trial and get them to run out food and drinks to the tables. All unpaid, of course, followed up at the end of the shift by sorry, you're just not the right type of person we are looking for. A company I worked for installed 800 fake fire doors in a 8-floor building that is home to police officers occupying important posts in the force. They charged around £1,100 for each door. The real doors were just panel doors made to look like fire doors. With everything, including the men installing them, they cost around £130. I felt like a criminal. No one cared. I worked for New Horizons, a franchise company that offers computer skills training. They regularly and anonymously advertise great jobs for techers. These jobs do not exist. They collect resumes and use the info to contact job seekers, saying the hiring company they applied to wants to interview them, but they require more training. If you bite and pay for training, you are told later that the job was filled by someone else. Essentially, New Horizons advertises fake jobs, gives false hope for a job that doesn't exist, charges the poor job seeking saps for training, rinses and repeats. They are still doing this today, with generic job posts all over CareerBuilder. CareerBuilder knows, but doesn't care because they get paid to place the fake ads. We have a zero tolerance violence policy. Basically, we are told that if another employee assaults you, you should just lay on the floor and wait for someone to call security to assist you. If you try to defend yourself, i.e. blocking punches, kicks, repeated stabbing with a knife, you both get fired. It's completely insane. If I'm on the street and someone attacks me and I defend myself, I can press charges against them, but in work, nope. They even make you sign a form stating that you cannot sue the organization for damages. Hire temporaries 4 years at a time, just so they don't have to pay for health care, holidays, paid time off, etc. I guess you can't be 44th richest man in the world by being decent, eh, Michael Dell? Attorney here. I have a duty to protect my clients at almost all costs, which means at times I have to take positions against people who I know have suffered. It doesn't mean in the eyes of the law that the opposing party is necessarily automatically deserving of something in return, but it does take a lot out of you to require a paralyzed little girl to prove her case. US Navy ships throw all kinds of shit overboard: paper, plastic, metal, has waste, insane amounts of jet fuel. The casualness that everybody has with it is pretty disturbing too. Oh god, I used to work at this self-serve frozen yogurt shop. Every morning we were required to flip the toppings and literally pick out any bits of dirt or anything else that would make the toppings look dirty. We weren't allowed to throw anything out. Bug in the toppings, pick out the bug. Baby pacifier falls in the toppings, pull out the pacifier, shake around, put in new container, never throw out. Also, if any of the fruit was moldy, we were supposed to pick it out, or cut it out, or scrape it off. I got in trouble when I first started working for throwing away a package of strawberries that had about an inch thick of mold growing on top. I used to work at a Kmart that was going out of business. During the liquidation process, all the prices were doubled and put on sale again for the original price. People ate that shit up. My ex-boss made it seem like our department was always swamped. He kept justifying more and more hiring until there were 10 people. This of course led to hiring 2 managers under him, and he got bumped to a director level. The reality is that there is only enough work for 2 people. These are all high paying technical jobs. Basically this guy hired a ton of people to do work that didn't exist, so he could use a large head count to get himself promoted. We have people we pay hourly, only for the hours they physically spend face to face with a client. We require them to electronically enter notes about each client. We do not pay them for the time they spend entering notes. Back when I worked at Five Below, they made us do this thing called email capture where we asked each customer for their email address and put it in the system, and they would just receive insane amounts of spam from us. I hated doing that. I didn't ask anyone for their email address cause I thought it was creepy and stupid and it would just end up annoying them, but I got yelled at all the time for not asking for emails. Also, they would purposely put pricier items right next to the $1 bin so that it would catch customers' eyes and seem like only $1 and they wouldn't be priced, so the customer would have no idea how much it was until they had already paid for it and got their receipt to look at it, and we don't do money back returns, so it would be too late. I constantly warned people all the time before I sold them anything though. God, I hated that place. At one of the restaurants I have worked at, crime, especially drug related, was rampant. Myself and 1 or 2 other managers were basically holding the store together while people did heroin in the back, sold drugs out of the alley, got arrested, shotguns, all kinds of stuff. I've got some ridiculous stories. Pretty crazy. I'm all ears. Shoot. Well, my favorite starter story when I tell my tales is my first day. On my first day, a fellow employee tried to sell me an assault rifle with no visible serial number. Very clearly the most illegal thing I had ever seen. Later, this guy was fired for shooting said gun in the alley next to our building at like 2 AM. We live in a really low violent crime city, so I don't even think the police were called/showed up. I used to work at a family restaurant in a state that did not pay minimum wage to its waitresses. The owner of the joint was this religious guy who was big at his mega church. He encouraged his fellow churchgoers to attend his restaurant after services, and in return they weren't pressured to tip. After all, he still got paid. Us. Hundreds of customers who did not leave a dime. Medical industry. Most hospitals have a markup on their drugs of somewhere in the neighborhood of 600-900%, with some hospitals having a markup of over 1500%. That means a generic 200 mg ibuprofen will cost you somewhere around $8 to $16. A bag of saline, which is just salt water, could cost you over $50. I worked at a beach. The lake tested positive for E. coli, yet we stayed open and allowed people to swim because it was a different part of the lake that tested positive. It's a lake. It shares the same water. None of the patrons knew either. I used to work in a gym. They would do anything to get members to sign a personal training contract. They would show before and after pictures of previous clients and lie about the process. One lady lost 100 lbs in about a year, working with a trainer 4 to 5 times a week, and seeing a professional nutritionist on the side. When pitching to a client, this lady lost over 100 pounds in a little over 3 months, working solely with our trainer 2 times a week. When going over the paperwork, they would breeze through the details and never mention the total price, getting the member to sign a retail installment contract. There's 3 things to every contract. How many sessions am I getting? How much am I paying for each session/total? What is the payment structure? The salesman wouldn't hit one aspect of the 3 and use that to manipulate the client's perception, usually the payment structure. They would haggle over hash of sessions and price, and eventually the client would win a better deal, but all it was the salesman adding another payment or 2 to the end of the contract, significantly bringing down the monthly/weekly payments.